famed author Clive Cussler.
The hero, Dirk Pitt.
The brain produces 10 watts of electricity. Micro-miniaturized implant that can transmit and receive brain signals. It's like changing TV channels with a remote control.
Deep 6. Episode 3. Presidential Brainworms.
So in my notes here, I had to find where we left off for episode 2, so I knew where to start for episode 3. And I just wrote down, let's see, what happened since we last recorded?
What was our date for last recording?
I don't know. This said a month ago. Let's see, our last recording for Deep 6. Wow, June 26th.
All right, that sounds about right.
Good Lord. Okay, so it's been more than a month.
We are busy summer people.
Well over a month since we've recorded this. Wow. Okay, so I have to add one more thing to the what happened since we were...
All right, what do you got? What has happened?
Let's see. What's happened for me since we last... Well, like, just for me or the world in general?
The world I've got covered. It's going to hell.
You'll handle that one. Okay.
We're all in the handbasket together. La-di-da.
We had my dad's memorial service. We bought a cool camping trailer. We went camping. I went to an EDM festival.
You bought a whole trailer.
I thought I sent you the pictures. It's like a very small trailer. It looks like something like our small car can easily tow.
Oh.
It folds out basically into a canvas apartment with a kitchen.
Slick. That is fancy. No, I didn't get the pictures. I did not.
Everywhere we've set it up, and so far it's only 3 places. Everywhere we've set it up, people walk up and go, "Oh my God, what is this? And where can I get one?"
That's a great purchase. It's so validating. Maybe just tickles both of my X chromosomes. Like, oh, I got a deal and I got a coupon.
I had a meeting with my boss. Like, I had sent him one picture. So 45 minutes of this call on work hours was me showing him the website where all the stuff came from. And like, yeah, here's all the stuff you can get. He wants one now.
That's great. And I don't know if you want to share this part in there. The maple syrup thing was wild. The guy coming to your tent at an EDM festival?
He came...
It's so greasy.
He came at 3 a.m. because his campsite was making pancakes. They were taking a break between sets. I should point out the EDM festival, the music goes until about 7 a.m. So 3 a.m. is a good time to take a break before you go back and finish out the night. And a guy just wandered into our campsite asking if we had any syrup. And we did.
Did you feel like a hero?
Yes, because he offered to pay, and we're like, no, don't pay. Just take the syrup. Goddamn. Go, be free.
The one time I felt like a true hero was when we first moved out here, and my daughter was an only child, and she was like a toddler, so I had no experience with older kids. And some teenagers knocked on my door, trick-or-treating, but it was like days before Halloween. And I just had a box of donuts that I gave to them. I already opened. I had one donut, so it was like 11 donuts, but I gave them 11 donuts, and they looked at me like I was a god.
Holy crap.
I was like, I'm the most important person in the world. I gave high teenagers donuts. They didn't even know what day it was.
That's amazing.
They took it like it was an offering, like a homeless child getting its first ever toy in some Dickinsville snow town. They're like, thank you. This is wonderful. We went to visit family, and I picked up a kid from camp. I am so happy I don't work with kids for a living. People that work with teenagers all the time are so patient, and they have to always have snacks in them. I didn't realize that's a cheat code, because I went to pick up my kids from camp, and like the camp advisors all had they were just like Velcroed with fruit snacks, like juice boxes. They're like, if somebody starts crying, hand them a juice box, hand them fruit snacks. Maybe that'll fix the crying.
At that age, they're always hungry and have zero ability to plan.
Zero ability to plan. They never want to be hungry. And I was there right as on Friday, right when it was July 19th, right when all the computers went down for the airlines, and this was kids were flying out, and they were a lot of international students and students who had to get on planes, and they were freaking out, and I was so happy to leave. I was like, oh, you guys don't get to go home. I do. Bye. I was like, oh, I'm not counselor that has to deal with people that can't go home. What a horrible job. And we went to visit my sister, who's got a gorgeous place in Maine. It was very real estate humbling, this trip. And my husband called my niece Chunky, and I wanted to die.
In a good way?
Like, no. Which way have you ever been called Chunky in a good way? And then make yourself a girl who's naughty.
If they're under 1 year old, it's fine. It's like, oh, who's a chunky monkey? Because, the baby just looks like a basketball at that age.
Yes, you're right. Of course you're correct. That is scientifically just the way it's going to work out. and we had, this summer, a kid sleepover. There's a kid that sleeps over who's also the same age as my son, but he's a bit more on the young side.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't watch a horror movie with this kid. But Minecraft all day long, so it's fun. But he had a bad dream and he came to the bedroom. My kid doesn't do that. We didn't lock the doors. That boy, he came to our house, a boy, he left a man. His mom had to have some conversations with him.
I have to edit this out now, don't I?
No. His mom had to have some conversations. She was like, he didn't knock? At what time? When your kid does something unacceptable and that you tell their parents and they're like mortified, the mom will squawk like what? So
yes, sorry listeners, we've been off having grand adventures.
Yes, we have. He had to go home right away. He cried and cried. I would too. Like, oh, you shouldn't have seen that. Nobody was meant to see that kid.
I remember that age.
He was like, was Tucker's dad hurting you? No, he wasn't. But that brings us to Deep Six.
Deep Six.
Chapter 380.
Part 3. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers, the only Clive Cussler podcast that apparently records once a month.
I remember we were having delusions of doing a book an episode. What crazy people we were.
We barely survived that with Stone of Fire. And that is the shortest book ever written, or at least the shortest book I've ever read. That's like still a book with a beginning, middle, and end. It is 1/3 the size of this book.
Yes, it is.
And now we're back to Deep Six, where the Secret Service screw up so badly, like you can't even imagine a situation where anything this bad could happen involving the Secret Service. Oh, and I should point out, an hour before recording this, the head of the Secret Service has stepped down in real life.
For the U.S., we don't know if all of them resigned.
Your Secret Service.
Yes, just because there was an ex-president who was shot at and dinged.
Missed me by that much.
Just a minor, it was just light treason.
I do love how people keep pointing out that, yes, the former president and, current candidate for the Republican Party was shot at a rally, and everyone just went, yeah, that makes sense, and moved on.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Nobody was talking about it. Nobody was surprised. It challenged no one's viewpoint or worldview or expectations of what could happen. Everyone just went, yeah, that makes sense.
You're right. Everyone did do that. I had, the requisite people saying, how could you get that close and miss?
Kyle Gass did nothing wrong.
Somebody might have said, pray for infection.
In one sense, you are praying for him, just not in the good way.
There is a song called I'll Pray For You, which I hope your brakes go out at 110.
Nice.
I'll send you the song. It's delightful. And well sung. This guy, everybody was expecting this sooner. They thought he'd get shot in the head, for reals. But he actually looks a bit sombered by the experience, because the bullet did go on and kill a firefighter, dad of two, whose name nobody knows. Yeah, I would stay away from any rally. Rallies aren't a game I'm going to play anymore.
And yet he spent almost the entire week at the Republican National Convention. And all I know about that, I learned from Cools on Media. Because It Could Happen Here people were there for the entire week as press, which is amazing. And they love the fact that there is nothing heavy and no sharp edges allowed on the convention floor. Like, you can't have a knife. You can't have, a plastic knife even. They confiscate anything remotely dangerous. And there is a booth at the RNC handing out sharp marble coasters.
That's wonderful.
And they're like, you can do some damage with one of these things.
And as a Canadian, this is a detour. Do you have thoughts on the show Alone?
What's the show Alone?
Alone is they take a...
That's the one where you're out in the woods and you just have the camera.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, my thoughts on that are the same as every other show like that, like Naked and Afraid, or the one where you had to survive like 500 days to win $500,000. And I don't know, they're not for me anymore. I'm glad they exist. It's funny when some people can't last 2 days.
It is funny when somebody can't last 2 days. Always. I love when tough guys are like, oh, nothing can break me. And then they get a bit of a wobbly tummy. And they're like, oh, send me home. I've got...
I ate the berries.
I caught malaria in the Arctic Circle. But it does sort of like ride the line of almost being like Canadian snuff films. Because they send all the Americans tap out pretty fast. It's the Canadians that you just leave out there and you're like, what if something happens? It's not without precedence, because we live in unprecedented times, that there could be a world event and maybe all the producers or people associated with the show don't know where you are anymore. Like, or they die. Or there's an event where the people that know where you are don't exist.
Well, I live out here now.
The bus problems. Like, what if you're the businessman who knows the solution to every business problem, but you get hit by a bus? What does your company do?
That's what happened to me 3 jobs ago, and they called the next day in a bit of a panic.
And you were probably polite, nice, and gave them the passwords, and didn't say, my consulting fee is $700,000 an hour.
It wasn't quite the passwords. I had to come back in and train somebody in the office how to do my job.
Oh, fuck that.
Because I was the only person who programmed the CNC machines. And I gave my 2 weeks notice and said, you know, I'll be happy to work here for 2 more weeks. I'll be happy to train my replacement because this is kind of complicated. No one here knows what I do. And as soon as my boss got the letter, he just like opens his door, sticks his head out and says, you don't want to be here? Fuck off.
Oh.
So I turned off my computer and fucked off. And the next day they called and like, hey, our entire company has ground to a halt because only you can program the CNC machine. Please come back in and teach one of us how to do your job.
Did you bend him over? For what?
Well, I didn't want to screw out the people on the floor.
Okay.
So I came back in for 2 days and basically gave them the like extreme run through for my job. And Joe, the boss, made it a point not to be in the office for those 2 days.
So, you know, wisdom comes in unexpected ways at times.
All right, that's banter.
Yes, we've bantered. God damn it.
We are up to chapter 22, and the chapters here really start alternating like big, small, big, small, big, small.
Yes, we left off last time we met. Chapter 21, the Soviet president was talking to his chief of security about Project Huckleberry. And we're sliding into chapter 22, Sandecker goes to Pitt's house.
Pitt's awesome man cave in a hangar at the airport in D.C.
And this guy waltzes into Pitt's house. Dirk offers him breakfast. He has cooked something. He has made eggs. He's like, I made a spicy omelet. Impressive.
He's a man of many talents.
Sandecker goes, nah, I'll have some grapefruit and black coffee. First, why do you hate your stomach lining?
He's tough, goddammit.
No, chutzpah. So, like, you really hate your stomach lining. Black coffee and grapefruit? Oh. You just have 2 aspirin with that and just get the torture going.
This is a man who smokes while jogging. He's indestructible.
He is made of chutzpah. I would never. If you offer me eggs, I'd be like, oh, no, thank you. But no, go make me pancakes, bitch. No. It's not a diner.
I didn't have any notes for the breakfast. I just had notes about how Sandecker shows up and immediately yells at Dirk. Like, you said you found the San Marino, which you didn't. And you said you found the pilot town, which is top secret. The president wasn't in New Mexico, we'd be picking our asses out of the carpet.
Oh, I still have notes about...
A great turn of phrase.
Breakfast. I'm not even done with breakfast yet.
Oh, shit. Okay, back to breakfast.
Loren comes in,
Yes.
and Sandecker's like, oh, you do it... Oh, he does the math. He does the booty call math. And then Loren opens the fridge and has because she just was out for a jog. She's really thirsty. So she opens the fridge and starts pounding the buttermilk. Ugh.
Protein.
So, yeah. He was yelling about the president. I was all about what they were eating. This is a very stereotypical diversion of concentrations. And then it cuts to after the yelling is all done. Min Cora and her grandson Li Tong gripe about the press release.
Oh yeah, they instantly peg the press release as a fake to lure them out.
But they're very upset by that.
Mm-hmm.
They see the ruse. They don't fall for it, but they're still upset by it.
Well, because it means that someone's onto their ruse. Not them specifically, but the threads are starting to come unraveled.
I guess it's a matter of perspective. I would be, we didn't fall for it. Take a minute, light a firecracker. Ooh, sparkly.
Yeah, I think they should be happy.
Take them on your victories.
If they're doing this ruse, they've got nothing.
Yes.
And Min tells Lee to investigate this Dirk Pitt, and if he's a threat, kill him.
And then we're taken abruptly to L.A., and we see Joe in his 60s, and he gets on an elevator.
We meet my favorite character of this book so far. Yeah, a man sits in an office in L.A. He has hard eyes, grim and determined after 60 years, big and wearing a Colt 45. He also reads the press release and immediately packs and flies to Washington.
Was he only wearing a Colt 45? Because that's a fashion choice.
Well, it's very hot in
LA.
LA.
LA is very avant-garde. But yes, we just get Joe gets on an elevator. Elevator Joe.
He's not Joe. He's Sal.
Sal. I wrote Elevator Joe. He's just Joe now.
Oh, Elevator Joe.
And we get back to our young hacker, the guy with the man bun, Hiram Yeager, which is a name that is really ethnically ambiguous. That's all over the place. Kudos to Cussler on this one, because you cannot pin this guy down. He's a hacker. He keeps his own hours. He comes and goes when he wants. You can't yell at him. Your credit score will get ruined.
Yeah, he's the ultra hippie. Like, he's completely flaky. He doesn't trust the government. He only wears denim. He has the ponytail. And he also has the entire 10th floor of the Numa building full of his own personal supercomputers.
And he has questionable ethics. So everything about him is wonderful.
Oh, yeah, like 5 times in this book, he just goes, "That's illegal." Okay, 1 second.
Yes. I love that. That's the point of view you need for life.
Love this guy.
And Dirk and Hiram uncover some light insurance scamming that is the lifeblood of the maritime industry now, where they talk about, it flies, a container ship will fly under a flag of convenience, not where it's actually located from, not where the owners live, and they discuss all of the tax loopholes.
I've got something later on about that, too. Also, I love, because of how early this was written in the 80s, they talk about modems the way we talk about, like, quantum computers now.
Yes.
Like, we have this exciting new technology where I use a modem to hack into a computer that's far away. It's so cool.
Well, we'll get to it, but one of them has to send everything they know about a guy in a dossier. It through the mail. We're expecting a dossier.
We'll get it eventually. But yeah, they have some information on the Sosan Trading Company, which owned and operated the San Marino and the Pilot Town. So they hack into the Sosan's bank accounts, but Yeager doesn't find anything, so Pitt goes home.
Hey, Yeager said go home. I took this as the tech guy going, you don't know what I'm doing.
Please
You're
get out
just
of my
pacing.
office.
Your energy is bad. Leave. I will get you what you want, but leave. He was kicked out. And when he gets home, there's already a guy sitting in his favorite chair. Who is it? It's Elevator Joe.
It's Elevator Joe, also known as Sal Cascio.
And we come to learn that his daughter was on the ship, the Mary Celeste, the Belle Guinness, the San Meatball.
Yes, because he shortened his name for business. It used to be Castillo, and Arta was his daughter. Well, I had a whole bunch before this, because this is the manliest chapter in the book. So Pitt comes home and finds this big guy with a Colt 45 aimed at him, sitting in a chair in his hangar apartment. And he got past all of Dirk's security. He tells him, "I took the clip out of the 32 Mauser you have taped to the wall behind your bottle of gin," and Pitt's like, damn, he's good. So Pitt gets him a drink, and the 25 that he points at Caccio's head that he had hidden in a milk carton, because Pitt has guns everywhere. And Sal's like, "Oh, you're good too." And then they bond about how, awesome and manly they are.
Hidden weapons of mortal destruction. So cool. And it seemed like Sal was some kind of security engineer that maybe Dirk hired to test his perimeter, a la Sneakers, a very timely reference about a Robert Redford 1992 film.
We talked about Sneakers just the other day when I was visiting my sister.
You're nearly too young. You're 2 or 3 years
No,
younger.
that was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I watched it on repeat.
You should have not, like, that should have just, because that was a blip. It came out and it disappeared.
It wasn't a hit, but man, it was such a good movie.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Cattle mutilations are up. Don't. Sorry.
Yet, Sal recaps how a girl stole more than $100,000 from a bank in L.A., freshly minted, sequential numbers. She boarded the San Marino and the ship disappeared. But 2 years ago, the money started getting spent.
Yes.
And that girl was my daughter. And they recap the entire book again.
He didn't love her anyway. He named her Arda.
He's very Italian.
Well, he's kind of hands-off then, right? If he's very Italian, she was getting older. I was getting to know her. Just getting to know her. I am taking my stereotypes from youth.
So Pitt gets the name of the banks where the money reappeared. Yeager chooses that moment to call, so Dirk passes on the names of the banks for the hacker.
And in exchange, he gives Cassio the information that he wanted, which is just where the boat turned up, and it was nothing helpful for Mr. Cassio.
And I wrote down a thing about this. I kind of like this. This is a bit of a change from the last couple of books. I mean, I said we have less, international conspiracies, less mega corporations. We still have all that in this book, but there's also a personal connection. There's just a guy and his daughter, and that's what cracks the case open for Dirk. Like, bring it back down to the level of mortal humans again. It's
almost like a Sam Spade thing. The guy's coming to find his kid.
This guy's very L.A. Noir coded.
Yes, very L.A. Noir coded. That is a perfect way to put that.
And chapter 25, the chapter that doesn't need to be here.
Okay. It's Washington. Early morning. We find out the operation that took over the presidential yacht took no more than 10 men. They were all drugged by the steward, and they switched out the presidential yacht with a replica. The country needs Sandecker and Numa. Peace out.
Yeah, this whole chapter explains the entire boat heist in detail, again, just so we can all go, wow, Clive is really good at thinking of stuff like this. But
this is, I think, the first time they bring up that all the men on board were drugged.
Mm-hmm.
Because that wasn't in the theories yet.
But also, they do finally reveal that because they were, that the reason we found no evidence on the boat was because they were never on the boat at all. What we have is a copy of the Eagle. They just sailed the Eagle away and left that boat behind. And I had to write in all caps, it would take some kind of international shipping magnate to pull that off.
It would. But it would also take, like, a lot of, recon and nearly digital photography, because you would have to have somebody on the boat taking pictures of every nook and cranny.
Yeah, I mean, just because the Eagle has a sister ship doesn't mean it looks identical to the one that the president's been using for years.
Yes, look at tract housing. It all looks the same from the outside. Go inside. I bet you people paint their houses different colors on the inside and put up different TVs and have different furniture. So just because it's a replica in structure doesn't mean in design and furbishments it's the same. It takes a ton of work. And also, there's so much furniture in being part of a apparatus, whether that's IBM or UNICEF or any government. You're going to have something of government. You're going to have like a fax machine or a place for security details to put their walkie-talkies and guns.
Mm-hmm.
Like extraordinary things that you're not going to get at your local big box store, which wasn't invented yet. So extra hard to get. You just, send Billy down to the store for the controlled weapons storage. It's not going to happen.
No, all it took was 10 guys, a garbage scow, and a fog machine. Take that, America.
And some really nice kerosene that was liquefied and deodorized. This is magic kerosene they talk about that has no scent. It just, you breathe it in and you get cancer instantly. Like everything else in the 80s.
The other podcat is just attacking my leg right now.
That looks identical to the other cat.
This one is
No,
fatter, much fatter and shorter hair. This is Mouse. Say hi. Oh, Mouse is fucking off. Okay.
Oh, you're going to need a skin graft after this. The cat is on your shoulder completely, claws in, claws wide, just climbing down your body.
Ow.
Perpendicular to the floor, getting DNA samples with every clawful.
Hi, Mouse. Okay, you're going over here.
Chapter 26. All I have is the FBI goes to Sandecker for help. He calls Pitt. Pitt calls Cassio. End of chapter 26.
That's basically it, yeah. Sandecker was just out cigar jogging, and Emmett from the FBI arrives. And everybody knows the rules. There's no meetings before 7 a.m. So Sandecker is like, this must be super important. And Emmett walks in and goes, Jim, we're fucked. So Sandecker reads the file and goes, wow, you're fucked. Get me Pitt.
Well, that's respectable. We're fucked. Is there somebody else we can have get to do this so we don't take the full blame? Human shield. They're shopping for human shields. Get calling down the line.
At the end of chapter 25, when they realize that they must have sunk the actual eagle, they say there's only one man for the job. Jim Sandecker. Get me Sandecker. And Sandecker's like, fuck this. Get me Pitt.
Yes. And then...
I'm taking my hands off of this.
Then at chapter 27, we're back at Manchurian Candidate headquarters. Ligovri is explaining to his KGB stowaway everything. It's just exposition. Thank God the stowaway stowed away.
I know. We learned about the injections and the x-rays and the chemicals and the brain hemispheres, and it's all non-surgical. They do it with lasers and computers, and lasers that are controlled by computers, even though they do say that there is a tiny surgical implant they have to stick into your brain, but they can control that from far away with lasers and computers.
And lasers. Did you forget about the lasers and the computers?
Because the human brain is basically just a computer.
They're putting a microchip in the brain of the president so they can control him like an RC car or radio-controlled car. They temporarily plug his... Well, they not temporarily. They had to bore a hole with a laser through his skull, like ten-panning high-tech style.
Damn.
But it's a tiny hole, so it's somebody with close enough hair to get a plug. And what's it called in woodworking when you just take a piece of wood that's the same species and you had a nick or a hole in something and you have to, like an inlay. They had to just hair plug the president. Yeah.
Spackle.
Yeah, they had to spackle his head up with some donor hair.
I do like the one line of, we might control him, or we might make him insane, and he'll do something to kill us all.
So you can control the president? Yes. Or, conversely, it can go very badly, and all of us will suffer horribly. Oh, good plan.
Every now and then, you roll a natural one, and he just launches the nukes. And then we get a bunch of really fast chapters.
Sure, fast miniature chapters. Pitt has figured out that they're looking for the presidential yacht, even though Sandecker does not want to tell him. Sandecker's like, go look over here for something. I'm not going to tell you what, it's something. Kind of looks like this. And Pitt's looking around, and he's like, there's security everywhere. You can walk across the AK-47s across the Potomac that the Coast Guard is carrying.
And no one has seen the president for a week. He's been at his ranch in New Mexico, along with a bunch of high-ups in the government. And
then Sandecker's like, if you see the presidential yacht in there, don't go inside. And Dirk's like, I'm definitely going inside.
Yeah. That's basically already chapter 28. Chapter 29 is where Pitt and Al go for a dive, and they immediately find the eagle, and they do some searching around, and Pitt just finds a room full of corpses at the bottom of the boat.
Yeah, he opens the door, and it's like the worst surprise party. Clive Cussler says it's like balloons lifting to the ceiling in a grim fashion. I thought that was a very beautiful way of putting it.
It was. That was actually a really horrible scene that he wrote.
But he wrote it
bodies everywhere.
Very Edgar Allan Poe-ish, like darkly beautiful. So the corpses vomit from his room like a con car.
And Pitt has nightmares about that at least two other times in his book. So this is so bad, even the great Dirk Pitt is rattled by an underwater room full of corpses.
To his benefit, though, it's underwater, he's wearing scuba gear, he can't smell it.
Oh, yeah. No,
That's a plus. They're bloated corpses. You can't smell them. Take the win.
And I would like to apologize because I probably should have a counter when I'm finally done, when we're done this entire series on Deep Six. But starting in chapter 30, I have the word Asians written in all caps about 100 times.
Oh, I know why.
Because boy, does it come up a lot. If we make it to chapter 32, that's a doozy. Chapter 32, I end my notes with what the hell just happened. But anyway, chapter 30. The room full of corpses are all mostly Coast Guard uniforms. There's no injuries. One corpse had a stylish sweater and a raincoat.
And we find out that was SS Agent Brock.
Yes.
The one who was the last one recorded speaking to somebody who was still on land.
Up on the boat, they tell Sandecker that it's the Eagle, but it was too dark to see anything. And Sandecker sees through him. He's like, tell me the truth, goddammit. And Pitt's like, okay, the boat's full of corpses. And Sandecker's like, oh, God.
Well, they floated out of the room. Aren't they going to be like washed up party favors in 2 seconds anyway? How long is he going to keep the secret?
Well, I figured they're still on the boat, but now they're like floating around the corridors rather than just all stuck in one room. They're mingling.
Oh, I thought it was like a recreation of Balloon Fest. Where it's just like...
But Pitt still had some time to do some studying, and he reassures Sandecker that 7 of the 8 corpses are Asian. And Sandecker's basically, oh good, it's not anyone important.
Yes, and he goes, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you certain? Are you positive? And then Dirk goes into this thing about a screed about eye folds, which was really uncomfortable. He goes, I know how to tell the difference between a Mongoloid and a Caucasian eye. Like, these are swollen corpses, Dirk. You're paying attention to the wrong things in life.
And there's a few words we don't use anymore in the upcoming chapters as well.
Then we won't. Users, fill them in yourselves. We're not going to commit the sin for you. You will have to sin all by yourself.
Yeah, I know. She's home. Calm down. I think my wife just got home from shopping and my dog is doing the tappy dance.
Oh.
Chapter 31, Pitt is having a sexy dinner with Loren and he flirts by telling her she looks ugly.
It was a nice jab because she knows she's beautiful.
I know. Well, she walks out like looking fabulous and he's like, damn, you're ugly.
Damn, you're ugly.
She makes a Peter Sellers reference, which was a Pink Panther reference, and then lots of uncomfortable Fu Manchu references.
Yeah.
And then Dirk has an epiphany. Like something within the tangle details of his complicated discussion with Loren, something pops up and he has a minor epiphany and he must leave right away.
Yeah. She brings him super secret government information on the CIA's Phantom Navy for sneaking agents into other countries for no reason. It's super secret, but she just hands it over dinner at a restaurant. And I guess it's not even that secret nowadays. We just call it Blackwater or whatever they call themselves now. Are they like the Academy now? Academy with an I?
I wouldn't be surprised. They always have very boring names like Executive Solutions.
They talk about ships disappearing, then showing up somewhere else with a new name, and the only suspect they have was Asian. And then Loren says, like, by the way, I have to go for a week. I'm going on a fact-finding mission on a Russian cruise ship, and I'm sure nothing will happen from that. But they mentioned something absolutely amazing, because when I wrote these notes, it was in the news that day. They talk about the SS United States.
That did make the news. What was that in the news for? That is they're trying to find a home for it.
Yes, because the dock where it's currently berthed doubled their rent, basically, to like something like $30,000 a month or some ridiculous thing. But the SS United States has to leave its home by mid-September. It is a 1,000-foot-long ocean liner, the last cruise ship to fly the American flag, because American cruise ships are not registered in America for tax reasons. They're registered in like France or Mexico or whatever. And also, I didn't realize it still holds the record for the fastest transatlantic crossing of a cruise liner ever. And this boat's from the 60s.
That's cool. We can cross the ocean in faster ways now, so I get why it fell off. It's like,
well, we can.
This dirigible is the fastest dirigible ever.
Yeah, but the fastest 1,000-foot-long boat to cross the ocean is pretty impressive. And at some point
He
in there,
is.
Dirk has the epiphany and he runs off.
Yes, and he calls the professor an old lady who he's picturing as a nice homespun, motherly type.
Dr. Grace Perth gives real grandma vibes.
Real grandma vibes, and is an expert on how Asians are different from other Asians, apparently.
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of lines from this.
So he's like, well, how do I tell if someone... And she's like, you can't. Well, that's Clive Cussler for this little chapter here, where he's like, well, how can I tell between a Korean and a Chinese person and a Japanese national? And she was like, they were all people and they were all fucking. So no, because they were people like you.
But in the end, she has to break it down for him. They talk about Asiatic versus Mongoloid features, but she focuses on cultural signifiers, which are actually probably a lot more important and relevant, but there wouldn't be any if it was just a bunch of bodies wearing Navy uniforms.
Yes, the character kept trying to bring up relevant things. She's like, well, if you can tell me how they moved or how they behaved or a word that they said,
Yeah.
that would be distinguishing. And he's like, no, just by their eyes that are not like mine. Tell me which flavor they are.
And over the phone, with no information, she says, well, I'd say your test group was 10% Japanese, 30% Chinese, and 60% Korean. Speaking as a doctor, of course. And Dirk's like, yes, hard numbers, thank you. This is how science works.
Yeah.
We have sanitized this chapter quite a lot, folks.
We did, and it's still horrific. White lady doctor of different types of Asians. I'm sure there was a major disaster.
I've had just about enough of your Vassar bashing, young lady.
Well, I feel like she tried to actually give appropriate advice about cultural signifiers, the history and intermingling of migrations and genetics, and she gives like a fast forward of their history.
Very concise and fast.
Yeah, but then Dirk's like, no, screw all that.
Yeah, he's like, what about the eyes?
I need to know which country I have to be racist to by the end of the book. And she's like, Korea. Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, 70% margin on Korea. So 40% chance you could be wrong. But he's willing to take those numbers. And we roll into chapter 33. Our Lady Min is talking with her grandson, Li Tong. Min is kind of being a critical grandma. She's like, this Dirk Pitt guy, he found the eagle. And that was really fast. That didn't get past him. I'm not impressed, grandson. And he's like, don't worry about it. We planned for them to find it. Shut up, Grandma. And she was like, I'm flying in a dossier on this Dirk Pitt guy. I've got to know more about him. So like in 24 to 48 hours, unless it's a weekend, FedEx will bring her a dossier on Pitt and she'll get all the information.
If only they had computers.
And then we cut to, I don't know how they pronounce it in the audiobook, Sukarov, the KGB guy.
Sukarov?
Sukarov is doing some light level sneaking where he is in his neck of the woods.
Yep, he's talking with Lugovoy and they're drinking and smoking. And I unfortunately had to write down, all these Mongolians ever give us is beer and wine. What I wouldn't give for vodka. The other one says, it's not like you see Americans defecting to Russia. Come on, try the beer.
I could appreciate that. That is, we've all had that when we're inappropriate and boundary pushing as young people, and we go out to dinner with somebody who's vegetarian. You're like, but what about bacon? Bacon.
Yeah.
And you see it like you would to a child. So you're like, try the sin.
Here comes the bacon airplane.
Pushing boundaries. Are you really allergic to peanuts? Here we are. Open up.
They talk about whether or not this is really supported by President Antonov or not. Nobody trusts anyone because they're paranoid commies. But then Suvorov notes that, I have it written two different ways, goddamn. One of those. He notes that Lugovoy leaves every 12 hours for 20 minutes or so. Suspicious, because nobody leaves this facility. You can't. All the elevators are on lockdown, but Lugovoy finds a way out, which he says he's just...
Yes, every 12 hours.
He's just going for a smoke. So Sukarov or Suvorov or whatever his name is, I've written it down twice. He plans his escape and prepares to double-cross everyone.
And he had to know something was up because nobody in the 80s went outside to smoke. You smoked inside with the windows up around children.
You don't smoke in the presidential brainwashing facility. That's just rude.
No, you do it in the waiting room that's adjoining the presidential brainwashing facility.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
There's no different ventilation system. Oh, in chapter 34, we find out everyone on board that was a human balloon for Dirk, they tested them, and they were poisoned with hemlock, which is a dirty way to go. Oh.
Yeah, hemlock that was ingested along with peppermint ice cream because they have a super-duper CAT scanner that's controlled by computers.
Yes, more computer-controlled stuff.
It was really, everybody was so into computers in the 80s. Like, finally, science fiction is real. Computers can do anything.
We had war games, we had Giant Number 5, we had so much emphasis on the computers. Sneakers wasn't too far away in 1992. All the typing on the keyboards, the hard typing that was originating in the 80s for cinematography.
Yeah.
Typing for film purposes. Who would have thunk it in the 50s?
And hacking with modems.
Yes. We weren't even up to 56K. Well, I guess the government would have had some secret spicy modems behind the scenes.
Yeah, the agent was killed with hemlock, but the Asians were all shot with stonefish poison, which was super duper deadly.
Oh, yes, with poison darts, not like with gun bullets. With poison darts, so the holes are very small. And it feels like an extra racist way to kill them. Like, why couldn't you kill them all the same way?
Well, because I'm guessing the Asians, they didn't want to leave, any bodies behind, and they can't bring all of them along because they have to tie up loose ends. So there was somebody there shooting them all with stonefish darts.
They don't like paying people in this book. Everybody's trying to avoid paying everybody else.
Everybody's paranoid. Everyone's double-crossing everybody else.
And then, yes. Chapter 35, the guys who were concerned about all the balloon bodies were also talking and brainstorming about how the president has been away from the press for so long. The press is going a little bit stir-crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So they organize, we have that body double guy. Let's get him in here, do some photo shoots from afar, appease the press. That's all of chapter 35.
Yep. I had one note. I had one line of notes written for that chapter, and you summed it up. Thank you.
I think his editor was like, you need to go back and people are going to have questions about this. Because that chapter is like 2 sentences long.
You can't just fridge the fake president for the entire book.
And this is where...
And Clive was like, I can get 50 pages of nonsense out of this. All right.
Yes. Sukarov does something that I could see myself doing, and it's profoundly stupid. So I really am symbiotic with Sukarov right now. In chapter 36, he sneaks into Lugovi's lab and dumps out all the sedatives and knockout drugs and fills them up with water. That seemed on the surface like a really good plan if you're a child who knows nothing of the world. I would totally stumble, like, I have no idea how any of this is working. I'll just dump it down the sink. Fine. And you can already tell this is going to go badly and that people are probably going to need sedatives. He'll probably need sedatives. He'll probably be begging for a painkiller at the end of this.
Yeah, and there's a brief conversation with Antonov and Palovi. I'm not sure who Palovi is, because I thought the guy in charge of the KGB was... Scrolling back through my notes, I have lost it. God damn it. Anyway, Antonov and his Secret Service guy are talking about how they have misplaced Sukarov. One of our agents in New York has gone missing. And they talk about how they should handle paying Bougainville for this whole brainwashing scheme they have coming up. And the KGB guy is like, why, we double-cross her, of course. We're communists. Of course we'll double-cross her. And Antonov is like, how about we do the thing that she least expects and pay her?
For time and services.
Yeah, like, give her the money we agreed upon. And the KGB guy is like, what, you've gone insane. And then they just end it right there.
Yeah, they just end it right there. Like,
explain how. Money can be exchanged for goods and services. Woohoo!
Okay, get a receipt. Maybe you can return the treason. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, basically, we're almost exactly at the halfway point, because one more chapter and then we're at the end of the first half of the audiobook. So.
Oh, do you want to go one more chapter then?
Sure. One more chapter, chapter 37. Pitt wakes up from his first corpse nightmare. And we get to meet for this book. Oh, no, we already met him in the last episode. We get to re-meet St. Julian. And I just had to reiterate it in my notes that I love how the voice that the audiobook guy does for St. Julian is just yelling. Brian Blessed
Yes.
Santa Claus just yelling. Exposition!
And St. Julian tells us the Bell Chase, the Pilot Town, and the San Belladonna are all one ship.
The San Marino.
San Meatball. It's all one in the same ship with lots of shenanigans.
Yeah, he did lots of talking to the retired shipyard foreman from Incheon and Busan, because St. Julian knows everyone, and they're all too happy to talk about their jobs, their lives. And they all mentioned the Sosan Trading Company. Interesting. That's who Hiram has been hacking this entire time. And Pitt just endures all this exposition. Then in the end, he's like, "God damn it, give me a name." And St. Julian says, "All I have is a description. He was a tall Korean who spoke with an American accent."
That's got to be like between 1 and 2 guys, max.
We're narrowing it down. Yeah, super good. So Pitt calls Hiram and tells him to hack the Sosan Trading Company again, I guess?
Hack them harder.
Yeah. Hack harder. Okay, sir.
Oh my god, the tallest Asian, these people have never considered Samoans.
Pacific Islanders.
Yes. This would blow their sample size out of the ocean into a bathtub, which might also be Numa territory.
I think even back then, they would absolutely categorize like Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders as they're not Asian, they're, Hawaiians, they're Samoans, they're Maori. And they're like, yeah, but India. Ethnographically.
All the big words are spelled phonetically.
I am hearkening back to thoughts of the old days and the adults of that time.
Racism was simpler back then.
Racism was for the simple-minded, and it was they didn't think about it deeply at all. Like, if it was not in the U.S., it was a faraway place, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
That cat is a unit.
No, this is Lily. She's skin and bones, but she's just
It's just all the fur,
yeah, she's perched on my hand, and she just sort of spreads. Right? Look at you. You're skinny. Look at all this.
Oh, I'm going to send you that song. And there's, I don't know if you have Amazon Prime, but there's
I do.
a show called Con Man with the guy who played Greg the Pirate, Alan Tudyk.
Oh, yes, he rules.
He does rule. This show is 20 minutes.
I met him at FanCon.
Have you? Was he nice?
Yeah. Our entire interaction is I was walking by dressed as Magnus from the Adventure Zone, and he's walking somewhere with his handler, and he's on his phone, and he just looks up at me and points at me and goes, "Ha!" and then just goes back to his phone and keeps walking. And that was my entire interaction with Alan Tudyk.
That is excellent. What a life. Oh, I'm so jealous. He just gets to do that to people. And no,
I know.
delighted.
I don't know how to respond to that. I think he likes me.
I like how Larry David knows people when he meets tourists. Like, they'll ask him for an autograph or a picture or something. He'll turn to them deadpan and be like, "You mean nothing to me. You are not a human." And people are like, "Yes!"
My favorite story like that is it was somebody on the Jason Ellis show who had met Bill Murray in a bathroom, and they were at like adjacent urinals, and Bill Murray, like, he finishes up and then hugs this other guy while he's still peeing and says, "No one will ever believe you," and walks out. And it's so crazy, it could absolutely be true, because that seems like something Bill Murray would do.
I was reading Reader's Digest in my grandmother's house. So this was a bazillion years ago. This was 1980 something. And I read a story about Bill Murray taking Oreos from a guy at an airport. Same thing. So he's been doing those shenanigans for a long time. Like, some guy just had a sleeve of Oreos and he went and took them. He's like, "No one will believe you," and just walked away.
See, that backs it up, or that everybody now has license to make up their own story about Bill Murray, as long as it ends with Bill Murray saying, "No one will believe you."
It has to be, like, kind of lighthearted.
And somewhere Bill Murray's like, "Hey, I only did a third of those things."
It's like Bill Murray's like, "I'm not the Lindbergh baby. What?
Your myth has grown.
I never cut off anybody's thumbs."
One time.
All right, I'm going to let you get back to work. I've got to
Okay.
go paint outside.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Deep six. Deep six. Dirt Head is gonna find that gold. Deep six. Deep six. Instead he found that all those corpses float. This broken belt is pretty bad. Her grandson, he just wants to stay. Russian spies are getting busy. Secret Service is in a cheesy. Dirk Pit wishes he were drinking, but old ass boats just keep on sinking. Deep six, deep six. We're halfway through this freaking book. Deep six, deep six. God bless you if you still ain't been shook. This has been Cussler, your host have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram